Hello everyone, what's happening? This is Forgo, and today I'm going to try to give you some insight on maybe what card sets to put on what characters. Now, there are a lot of variables, a lot of different variations and preferences that people use as to which card sets to put on which characters. I'm going to kind of give you a baseline on what to look for in a character as far as what card sets you should be putting on them. So, we're going to go into the exchange shop. And we're going to take a look at these card sets, and we're going to talk about just the set cards. I'm not going to go over all of these sets. I'm just going to go over the best sets and really the most popular sets that people use. We'll start with this Noah set right here, which is the light and shadow type. This gives a solid attack for each card, which is insane. Increased attack by 10%, gives a 15% chance to gain super armor for 3 seconds upon successful attack. This would be a really good card set for characters that say have an ignore guard. The reason I say ignore guard is because you have to land a successful attack. If you have ignore guard on your character and you can land a successful attack, then boom, you're probably, you're going to get that 15% chance to get super armor. This would be a really good card set for characters that have that have ignore guard. It's also a great set because it gives solid attack. This thing gives a 31% attack bonus. Some characters that are really good with this card set, even though they don't need the super armor, is Pretty Zero, Mukai. I mean, there's lots of characters that actually use this, but you really want characters that don't have super armor to use this set with. Characters that like Kazuya, maybe even Terry, because 2003 Terry, because he does have super armor, but it's on a guard and it's on a 20-second cooldown, so he doesn't get super armor very often. And this would actually be a really good set for him as well because his second skill gives a stun. You could even put this on Geese Howard. Now, I don't think, these are not optimal characters for these card sets. Like I said, the Noah set, or the Light and Shadow, whatever you want to call it, is a very universal set because it's giving solid attack. It's going to give 21% altogether with all three of these cards, maxed out at level 10, and then another 10%, which is 31%. It's just a great set for pretty much most any character. So if you have this set, you can pretty much slap it on any character you want, and it's going to be great. But they're universally wonderful because they give just solid attack stats. Then we have the KS set here, which is the Shadow and Truth set. Now this is an absolutely wonderful set because if you take a look at all the set bonuses here, it's all increased defenses by 7%. This is the #1 set to put on defensive characters. Any defensive characters, #1 set. Even John Cena, the best version of John Cena, this is absolutely wonderful because one of his skills actually increases his attack based on his defensive stats. So this is a great set for him. This is also a great set for League. When you're playing in League, because every time you switch your character, you're going to get super armor for 5 seconds when you tag that character in automatically, which means that the other characters cannot interrupt your skills. You're automatically going to have super armor for 5 seconds. You can go into your skill, especially if your character has immunity and doesn't have any kind of super armor. You can bring them in, hit their immunity first, and then go into their other skills. It's actually an amazing card set because you get the increased attack equal to 45% defense, and obtains 10% additional attack for 30 seconds. Really wonderful set, especially for defensive characters, especially when you're playing in League, and it just gives the best attack stats for defensive characters. Plus you get an additional attack for 30 seconds. It's actually a pretty universal set as well because it does have all these increased defensive stats, so you're going to gain 21% increase to your defenses. And this increased attack equal to 45% of your defenses is going to give you that extra attack on top of the 10% additional attack for 30 seconds. So it's a real universal set, although optimally, I believe people would rather put these on defensive characters because they're going to have a lot of high defensive stats, and this set would really work well with them. Then we have this set here, which is the Truth Between 0 and 1 set effect. Now this is a real interesting card set because if you look at the cards, you get increased attack here, increased defense, and increased HP. I really like it a lot better when all the cards have the same stat, whether it's defense, attack. I just like those a lot better because they really seem to buff up your characters a lot more than card sets like these. However, this card set offers an increased penetration by 800. Now what does that mean? Well, I actually had to talk to one of my buddies. Sam, shout out to you in Discord for explaining this to me. But evidently what this means is it takes away this amount away from their defensive stats. So say a character has 5,000 defensive stats. Well, if you put this card set on the other character, you're going to decrease the defensive stats of the character you're facing by 800. So now they're going to have 4,200 defensive stats. In turn, essentially just making them weaker. It's actually very powerful. Two characters that come off the top of my head that are really awesome, that have an insane amount of penetration, are Orochi Iori and Pretty Zero. Although I don't think this is an optimal set for either one of those characters, but because they have so much penetration, it's a really wonderful set. Plus, it gains super armor for 1 second. This is another thing. Iori and Pretty Zero both have penetration. Or, I'm sorry, they both have super armor and their kits, but it does decrease damage received by 20%. And that would work really well for them because they both are attack type characters. They both can die fairly easy because they don't have very high defensive stats. So, that's something to think about. And you get this decreased damage received by 20% for 3 seconds upon using an active skill. So you don't have to land the active skill, you only have to use it. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll go into the fighters here. And let me see here. If you look at Pretty Zero and you look at her core effect, she gets this penetration right here. That's not a whole lot, but this is what I'm talking about. Increased penetration by 400 for 5 seconds. Upon each attack, stacks with 5. That's 2,000 penetration. You slap that card set on her, she's going to have 2,800 penetration at times. She's going to be weakening their defenses big time. And then if you take a look at, where is he at? Where's he at? You got to find him. And if you take a look at Iori here, it's the same thing. You look at his core effect, increased penetration by 200 for 5 seconds upon landing an active skill. He doesn't have as much as Pretty Zero, but this stacks up to 1,000. So he's going to have an 1,800 penetration, which is really going to decrease their defenses. Again, I don't think the card set is optimal for either one of these characters, but I do think it's a good set for them. And maybe some other characters as well. I'm just throwing them out there. The Ryugo set, or Checkmate set. This is an amazing set for characters that don't have Ignore Guard. If you look at all these set stats, they're all attack. So you're going to get solid attack for any character that you put them on. I really would put this set on characters that don't have Ignore Guard. A character like Pretty Zero, she has like a 40% chance to ignore guard. Genjuro has a 40% chance to ignore guard on his second skill. This set would still be good for them because they don't have a 40%. But a character like Original Zero, who has a 100% chance to ignore guard, I don't think this would be a very good set for that character. Although he does have a range attack on his first skill, maybe it would be useful because maybe you could, break their guard, knock them up in the air, and then go over and start slam-a-bam-wham and go in your combos and beat them up. Plus, you get a solid attack. It's really just a really good universal set for a lot of damn characters. A lot of people will be slapping this on Nameless, Orochi, all kinds of characters so you can get that Ignore Guard. It increases their HP by 20%. That's something else to think about. Orochi is really good for this because he has a nice HP pool to begin with. And he's got a nice heal. This is actually going to help us heal a lot. And you get the 10% chance to ignore target's guard upon landing an active skill. And decreases target's attack by 20%, in turn weakening them. So this is a really good set. It's a real good universal set. However, I don't think it's optimal to put them on characters that have a 100% chance to ignore guard. If they don't have that 100% chance, then I still say it would be a good set, even though, like I said, Pretty Zero does have some ignore guard. It's not a 100% chance. So I still think this would probably be a really good set because you still get all the attack stats, the 21% increase to attack and the increase to HP, which will help with survivability. Very universal. So, the Noah set, and the Checkmate set, or the Ryugo set, are both very universal sets for a lot of characters because they give solid attack stats. The Kea set's really mainly going to be for defensive characters for the most part. And then this set here, like I said, it's very niche, but any character you put it on is going to weaken their defenses and decrease damage received, which helps. So if you got a character that maybe has low survivability, maybe this would be a decent set. You'll get that second of super armor at times. The coolest set, and I'm just going to talk about this set real quick. This is a very, didn't mean to do that. This is a very universal set. It's a completely free to play setup. You don't have to get this in the banner. Well, actually, now we do have to get it in the banner. My bad, I forgot. But you get solid attack by this thing, which is wonderful. you're going to get an extra 15% attack, and it gives an increased attack by 17.8% for 5 seconds upon landing a critical hit. Characters that have a lot of native critical hits, or crit rate, I'm sorry, a lot of native critical rate, this is going to be a really good set for. Characters like Neskio, he's going to be really wonderful for this. Characters like Orochi Iori, he's going to be really wonderful for this. Geese Howard, they're going to be really wonderful getting this. Even Ignis, if you put him in the leadership, it gives him 10% critical rate. So that would actually really help as well. But it's a very universal set because you get solid attack stats. And that's something you're going to hear a lot. All these card sets that have solid attack stats on all 3 cards, or all defensive stats that actually buff the character, are really the best way to go. I'm not going to go over all these. The Kula Vacation cards, these are the weakest defensive cards. Really good set because all the cards offer defense. So you're going to get an extra 15% increased defense, an increased attack equal to 40% of defense. They're not as good as the KS set. In fact, I ranked them as number 3 as far as sets for defensive characters. The first set would be the KS set. This would actually be the 3rd set. This set here, we got the Ash set, or Formidable Foe. This is a real interesting set. If you take a look at the stats, you get an increased damage dealt to attack, you get increased damage dealt to defense, and increased damage dealt to balance type. Actually a pretty good card set. It increases attack by 25% of defenses, power charge rate by 5%. So you really want this card set on a defensive character because it doesn't have any defensive stats to base this attack off of. It's not a self-buffing cards. They're not self-buffing cards like the KS set or the Kula set or even the Mr. Big set. So I really think that this set here you should really put on defensive characters. And I mean, even Nameless, this would be a really good set because this is going to synergize really well with his core effect as far as giving him more PG gain. This set gives a solid 5% power charge rate gain. Really good set, but again, I just don't think it's the best. I think it's a good set, but it's very niche and it's really mainly for only defensive characters. Then we have the Mad Tea Party set. This is by far the 2nd best damage dealing set in the game, in my opinion, as far as just raw damage for the most part. I'm not always, but for the most part. The thing that sucks about it is you don't get increased attack for every card set. You got increased critical rate, which synergizes with this critical rate by 8%. That gives a 10% critical rate. And then you got critical damage by 12%. So it's a very good card set for increasing your critical rate. And characters that need critical rate to buff up, say, dot effects, bleed, burn, poison, chill, things like that, this card set's going to be absolutely amazing. Deals additional damage equal to 220% of attack upon landing a critical hit. So characters that have, like, see, I'll show you here. So here, I'll show Geese Howard here first. So Geese, so when you see things like this, increased damage by 18% on a critical hit. So the more crit rate you have, the more critical hits you're going to do, and the more damage he's going to be just dealing, which makes him absolutely insane. And then upon landing a critical hit, deals shock damage equal to 3 times the remaining shock damage. We're not going to read the rest of it. We get it. The more crit rate this guy has, the more shock damage he's going to deal, the more overall damage he's going to deal. It's absolutely insane what he can do with that Mad Tea Party set. Neskio is another one. You take a look at Neskio and applies Infernal Flame to the target for 5 seconds by landing a critical hit. The same thing. The more crit rate he has, the more burn he's going to have. And this is going to be really well with this guy because he gets increased attack. He also has increased critical rate by 18%. That card set on him is going to give him a guaranteed a critical rate by 28%, which is massive. Massive for that guy. Even Adelheid here. Adelheid, he's going to be insane with this thing too. You go down here. Decreases the target's HP recovery and power charge rate by 80% for 5 seconds upon landing an active skill as a critical hit. Not as good as Geese and Neskio, but still really good. Let me see here. No, that's pretty much it. Genitz here with the set is amazing. He's absolutely wonderful with that set. Inflicts bleed damage equal to 46% of attack to the target every 1 second for 3 seconds upon landing a critical hit. The Mad Tea Party set is amazing on Genitz. It's freaking insane because his bleed is scaled up. Haomaru, the same thing. these characters that have these core effects or active skills that deal that your dot damage is based off how much critical rate you have, like how many times you're going to crit hit. Though that card set is absolutely amazing on those characters. Scroll down here a little bit. Now we have the time for medical checkup set. This increases attack by 12% and strike skill damage by 23%. And every card offers different stats. Again, I wish it was all defense, all attack. It would just be a lot better. I wish it was all attack, to be honest. That would be awesome. But this is a great card set for characters that have strike skills. And I'll show you what those are in a second. And then you have this card set here. Now this is actually a better version of the Halloween set that we just looked at, The Girls Who Sing Love. This is a wonderful set. You got the increased penetration by 115. You have the increased HP, and then you got increased penetration by 250. So you got 250 increased penetration, and then you got increased attack. I'm sorry. So it's a okay here. Again, I wish it had all the same stats, but still a good set. But this is where it gets interesting. Increased strike skill damage by 30%, 50% chance to increase attack by 20% for 5 seconds upon landing a strike skill. So if you got a character that uses strike skills, just like that Halloween set we just looked at, you're going to increase the damage by 30%, and you're going to have a 50% chance to increase attack by 20%. Absolutely amazing. So as far as strike skills, let's see here. Who can we take a look at? This is a strike skill. When you see these closed fists like this, that is a strike skill. So characters like Mei Li that have all strike skills, those card sets are going to buff them up big time. Let's go back in here. Okay. Now we have this set right here, which is the Elizabeth set, as I like to call it, but Winter Holiday Gift. And this set is pretty cool because increased attack, obtains 2% power when using grab skills, and increases critical rate. Very good set. This is actually a terrific set for Orochi Yashiro or False Yashiro because they do a bunch of grab skills. False Yashiro has poison damage is based off how many times he critical hits, and the fact that this set gives a critical rate by 8% really will help him deal more poison damage. But again, the Mad Tea Party set would also do the same thing. But you get an increased attack by 30%, deals an additional damage equal to 200% of attack to the target upon landing a grab skill. So this set is wonderful for characters that have grab skills. Absolutely amazing set for those characters. And you want characters that have at least 2 grab skills on their skills, especially if they have like ultimate skills that do grab skills. Really good set. And then I'm going to go over these couple sets real quick. So here we have the Nest set. Now this is an absolutely wonderful set for making your characters tankier. You get this set from doing the Shizuru event. And this set's wonderful because you get an increased attack by 21% by having all 3 of these cards. Then you get another increased attack by 12%. That is 33% extra attack. A very good universal set for a lot of characters, but the thing that's nice about these things is the PvP exclusive decreases damage received from enemy with super armor or hyper armor by 50%. If you have a character that lacks survivability, this is a great set. This set works really wonderful with characters like Mukai, Vanessa, Ignatz. I mean, absolutely wonderful for them because it's buffing up them by giving them all this solid attack, but it's also making them a lot tankier, but only against super armor or characters with super armor and hyper armor. This is a wonderful, wonderful set. I use it religiously. And then you have the Mr. Big set. This is the defensive set that I would rank number 2. All the cards increase their defenses, which is wonderful, and gives an increased attack by 42% of defenses, recovers HP by 3%, and gains 3% of power upon defeating an enemy. Very, very well-rounded set. I do think the Kea set's a bit better, but I think Kea would be number 1, Mr. Big would be number 2. You could argue about whether or not the Ash or the Kula set is number 3. I really think the Kula set's probably number 3, but the Ash set still is good. And this is a set you definitely want to put on defensive characters. And again, John Cena. And I want to throw this out here because John, he's a balanced type fighter. But if you take a look at John here, you go to his skills. You can see inflicts damage equal to 696% of attack to an enemy, increases attack by 25% of defenses. So when you're increasing this guy's defenses, you're actually going to be buffing his damage by slapping a Kula set on him, or the Kula Vacation set, or slapping the Mr. Big set, or slapping the Kea set on him, because it's going to give him a lot of extra defensive stats. Even though he's a balanced type fighter, those sets actually work really well with this guy because of this buff that he gets. So hopefully that will help some of you out as far as, deciding what characters to put them on. If you like, I could do something more detailed because it really just depends on what game modes you're playing the characters in as to which card sets you should really put on them. A lot of times I just run with the same sets even though it goes against the grain. A lot of times, like for Nameless, I just like, let's see, where's Nameless at? Like for Nameless, a lot of times I just put the Mad Tea Party set on this guy. I'm running the Mr. Big right now, but a lot of times in Hell's Dungeon, I just put the Mad Tea Party set because my Hell's Dungeon team is Ignatz, Nameless, and Kula. And Ignatz I like to run my Tekken set on, which is this set right here. And I know I didn't bring up the Tekken set, and I didn't bring up some other sets that we get from collabs. I excluded them, but the Tekken set is going to be the same thing as the Mad Tea Party set. It's going to be the same thing. Characters that have a lot of dot damage based on how many times you critical hit. It's going to be an amazing set for those characters. But this is an amazing set for a lot of damn characters. It's an amazing set on Nameless because it synergizes really well with him because he has that power gain from his core effects, and getting this extra power gain when he does critical hits from this set just synergizes really well. Plus you get solid attack stats from every single card, which is insane for that guy. Even though he's a defensive character, even though the Kea set and Mr. Big set, the Kula Vacation set are very good sets for him, a lot of people will always tell you this is the best set. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about preferences. It's everybody has a different cup of tea. Everybody likes to play their characters differently. So everything that I'm saying in this video is my perspective on how you should approach what cards to put on what characters. So hopefully this helps some of you out. If you'd like a more detailed list of maybe what cards to put on what characters, please let me know in the comments, and I'll do the best I can to come up with something for you in the future. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one.